Darmok, the river Darmok in winter. Temba, his arms wide. Darmok at Tanagra, the beast at Tanagra. Jalad at Tanagra. Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra. You probably know exactly what I said if you're a Trek nerd. 1991, Star Trek, The Next Generation, Darmok. The Starship Enterprise under Captain Jean-Luc Picard is the next in a line of, I think they mentioned 7 or several attempts by the United Federation of Planets and its allies to contact an unusual species known as the Children of Tama. The Children of Tama, or the Tamarians as we will come to know them, have been trying to reach out. They have not been aggressive, they have not been violent, but it is not clear how peaceful their intentions are because you just can't communicate. Despite the universal translator, despite all of the thousands of species that they've encountered in the Star Trek universe, no one is even able to say hello to the Tamarians. The Tamarians speak in sentences that are just the piecing together of nouns like place names and people names, events perhaps, and it is not clear how to communicate with them. This is one of the most famous episodes of any Star Trek ever. This stuff was shown to linguistics classes in college, high school, language arts kids had to watch this. Everybody has seen it. It's sort of that basic go-to thing for, wow, what a great job they did, driving home how, well, it's just a miracle that any two species ever communicate, that any two groups of people, humans with different languages, it really is insight into that. And I'm going to be the stick in the mud and say, I love this episode, but come on, it's kind of dumb. So the Children of Tamar, as we find out through the course of the episode, all of these references they use are references to place names, people, events in their mytho-historical accounts. They think and express themselves by metaphor, by citing example. It's really brilliant. We get the discussion of it in the episode, like Juliet on her balcony, Antony at Caesar's funeral pyre, any number of things from our history, if we know them, that carry with it all of this sort of baggage and nuance then of meaning, but is only known to us if we know the narrative. The captain of the Tamarian vessel, desperate to build communication, draws on this mytho-historical account of Darmok and Jalad. We find out in the course of the episode 2 mythological hero hunter warriors who cross an ocean separately. They arrive at an island separately. At an island, they encounter a dangerous creature, which apparently they overcome together. And somehow in that narrative, they are bonded together as friends, so that at the end, Darmok and Jalad on the ocean, they leave the island together. The Tamarian captain has given his life in the course of the episode just to teach this lesson so that Captain Picard can go back and they have built this bond and are able to move forward with communication and understanding. And at the very end, we see the little pad with the information beamed up in the strange extraterrestrial scribbles that the alien second in command, now in command, refers to as Dathan and Picard at Eridrel. A new entry into their mytho-historical accounts to be cited as example. They now have a metaphor in their language, in their database for first contact. If they didn't before, now they do. And now the universe will be their oyster. They'll be able to communicate in time. The Federation will be able to communicate with them. What an incredible story. Captain Dathan's willingness to sacrifice his own life for the effort at communication, that they do come together in peace at the end. And part of that is they have to come to some cultural understanding to be able to even reach communication. So we have Captain Dathan telling Captain Picard as best as he can by citing only the examples, the story of Darmok and Jalad before he dies by the campfire. And Picard repaying the favor by telling the story of Gilgamesh and Enkidu at Uruk, one of the early foundational mythos pieces of Terran culture on Earth. It was, what can you say? It's beautifully done. It's beautifully handled. All the parts are done are written well. I mean, there's not any empty space, and wow, what a story. No wonder it's a cultural phenomenon. The only problem that I have with it is kind of silly. You have to accept the premise that no one in Starfleet had figured out until that point that what the Tamarians were doing was citing examples. Nobody had guessed at the idea that these things were metaphors. Our own crew on the Enterprise D should have known this 15 seconds into the conversation we see early over the view screen in the episode. It's obvious, thanks to the universal translator being able to give us the nouns and the Darmok and Gelada. Tonight we see the argument happen between the captain and his first officer. We know how they're communicating without knowing any of the words. We know the grammar, as Data will say later, but not any of the vocabulary. We know this with any degree of common sense. Therefore, someone in Starfleet should have known it. If you didn't figure this out, then you should be demoted. Somebody on the Enterprise D, our bridge people, should be scrubbing barnacles off the hull if they didn't know that 10 seconds into the initial communication with the Tamarians. And all those other several attempts by Starfleet personnel that failed, those people need to be reassigned to a starbase cafeteria. I mean, literally, come on. There's a suspension of disbelief that we're asked to have here, and I'm willing to grant that because it is a great episode. And it really does make a great point. But all of the drama, the tension, the sacrifice of Captain Dathan, all of that is really lost if we know from the beginning that this is what they're doing. This is how their grammar works. We've got to learn the story. If we knew that at the beginning, it really doesn't work. But we should have known that at the beginning. But with that suspension of disbelief, accepting that part of the plot just blindly, that makes the episode a perfect episode because everything else flows together so well. And again, their obnoxious level of ignorance about what should be obvious leads to all the discussions that happen on film in the story so that it really drives home for us the detailed description of that Darmok is a chocolate dessert. It's also a mythological hunter. It's also a seventh dynasty Cain or whatever, another planet. The idea of grasping cross-culturally the meaning and symbolism that is inherent in all language, whether that's on Earth between neighboring countries, opposite sides of the globe, or crossing deep space. It's a cool discussion, which is what makes the episode so good and so timeless, to draw that out and to give us the drama and the tension. But really, they should have known. So that is my take on Darmok. Temba, his arms wide. Take it for what it's worth. Again, it is a fabulous episode. I always watch it when it happens to be on. That one tidbit bothers me. But this was when TV was better. And Star Trek The Next Generation, you'll hear people talk about it all the time, that it starts out kind of slow. The first couple seasons kind of struggle to take root. But man, this is some of the best television ever made by the time you get to the end of the series. Peace and long life. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you next time.